People see us everywhere. They think you really care. But myself I can't deceive. I know it's only make-believe.
Welcome, against all odds, yet again, to the latest episode. Well, not welcome again. Welcome to the latest episode of Will You Accept This Prose, the only analysis podcast of all products within the Bachelor, ABC's The Bachelor family of products. I am your author, Max Churchwell.
Well, one, that was a lie. We are never going to do Bachelor in Paradise on this podcast because that's for us. But I'm your analyzer, Kenzie Brinton.
You make a good point, Kenzie. But I want to start out on this episode because, you know, having just watched the episode of Kaitlyn Bristowe's season of The Bachelorette that we are going to cover, I know one thing's for sure, and that's we're going to be sharing a lot of thoughts on one frequently mentioned Nick Viall.
Ugh.
And so I would just like to take this opportunity, because I know the opinions that I will be sharing, I'd like to take this opportunity to tell absolutely anyone who listens to this episode of our podcast, even if by this time it is deep within the annals of history, everyone, tweet a link to this episode at Nick Viall. His Twitter handle is ViallNicholas28. Everyone, please.
Wait, Viall Nicholas 28?
Viall
That's such
Nicholas
a,
28.
That's
Now
such
that's
a
his
basic...
name. That's his name. Yes, it's from his college email account.
It literally is just a college email address.
Viall, V-I-A-L-L. Nicholas, the way Nicholas is spelled. 28. All one word.
No underscores or anything?
No underscores or anything. Couldn't get those. Not quick enough. Everyone, please tweet a link of this episode to at ViallNicholas28. Don't follow him or I'll hurt you, I swear to God.
Yeah, spoiler alert, guys. He ain't gonna like it.
This is not promotion whatsoever, unless don't follow him because you want to see his response to this episode. Just set like a Google News Alert style thing.
Because, I mean, he for sure will listen to this.
Oh, he'll have to. Just like I stumbled upon the title. I inadvertently spoke the title into existence earlier. So the title won't be about him, but if you just let him know, like, hey, so much of this episode is about you, that would be killer. God, do I have to find a timestamp for when we start really going in on Nick Viall so that people can, like, put it in the episode
we'll have to
description?
go back.
Put it in the episode description and people will be like, hey, Nick, you've got to listen to this episode. It's all about you, starting at whatever.
Yes. Okay, but do we need to start talking about the episode so we can start trash talking him?
Yeah, I guess.
So we do get a recap, which I appreciated because it has been quite a while since we've watched The Bachelorette.
Longer than usual, for sure.
Yeah. If you remember, Nick and Kaitlyn did have sex. Not last episode, but I think the episode before.
Something like that. Very recently
Yeah.
in the, like, episode list.
Right. But she has not told anyone yet. None of the gays. We get a recap of Sean talking about Kaitlyn coming to his room and, you know, saying that he's the one or whatever.
Yeah, which, you know, we now have Sean's recount of that. We have Ben's very quick recount of that. we still, I think before this episode, I think we hadn't gotten much of anything from Kaitlyn.
No, we did.
recount.
Kaitlyn explained what happened last
Oh,
episode.
yeah, but like on the like specifically her like words between her and Sean, I think she hadn't spoken on much, and we get at least a little bit of that this episode, a teensy tiny bit, but like we have questioned Nick's interpretations of things on that night.
Sean's.
Yes, sorry,
Don't jump
Sean's.
into talking about Nick yet.
I'm just so
You're
ready
so
for
ready for it.
No, but we have questioned in previous episodes of the podcast Sean's interpretations of these things, and whether or not they were truly accurate. And in Kaitlyn in this season makes it clear that, well, sorry, spoiler, clear that Sean was not misinterpreting what
I thought
happened.
she did last episode, though. I thought she talked about, coming in and saying that and it being a mistake, because at the time, because she had said before that at the time that's what she was feeling, but after that she developed closer relations with the other guys and realized that it might not be Sean, and she made a mistake by saying it to him so early on.
For some reason, I thought that she had not said outright that, like, she told Sean he was the one. I thought she had not said that yet. So, spoiler alert, at, like, the very fucking end of this episode, we do find out that she did, in fact, tell Sean she was the one, if you didn't know yet. Sean, that he was the one, if you did not know yet.
Yeah. And... in the recap, it also talked about Kaitlyn's worried about messing stuff up with the other guys. And then also, there's the schedule change. So the fantasy suites are coming before the hometowns.
Yes. Which was revealed in the last episode, but is still entirely different.
Right. So then we get a teaser for this episode, where Kaitlyn is possibly going to tell the guys about what happened with Nick. We do see her, and we've seen it before, her saying, we had sex.
Yeah.
So, we don't know if she's telling everyone that, or just
a specific person.
Right.
We don't,
Yeah, but we do know she tells somebody. And then we get a sound clip from Joe saying, don't talk to me, I'm done with you.
And this sound clip, actually, it comes as, like, he is... walking, it's I don't know the best word to describe it, but basically there's plants and shit all around. He's out in nature. There's a bunch of plants around. There's a lot of foliage.
The flora.
I was just about to say a lot of flora. And he seems to be walking away from something and saying, don't talk to me, I'm done with you. And this also seems to come right after we see Kaitlyn revealing to whomever that she had sex with Nick.
Yes. So it seems like, which, in two completely different locations, but...
100%.
Yeah, sometimes the producers or the editors do a real good job at putting these clips together, and sometimes they're so lazy with it.
Who knows when anything is going to happen, because we still haven't seen someone streak across a golf course.
Yeah! When is that going to happen?
They're running out of time, man!
We're down to 3 guys!
I have a theory. Please remind me to pitch it at the end of this episode.
Okay.
When we can talk about, like, who's going through to the fantasy suites and stuff, I'd love to throw in my guess of who streaks across a golf course.
Okay. Alright. So, starting the actual episode, we do get a little bit from Joe where, I just thought it was interesting. There's a talking head where he's talking about the schedule change, and he said that Kaitlyn decided to have the fantasy suite sooner, which we know it wasn't Kaitlyn who brought it up for the first time. I just thought it was interesting that he took it as this was Kaitlyn's decision to do it.
Well, I mean, the boys certainly, I don't think they were given any context on that, because when we saw Chris Harrison come in and tell them this is what's happening, and he said it very matter-of-factly, and I think as a contestant, if I were a contestant on The Bachelorette, I would certainly assume any decision like that came down was coming directly from the Bachelorette themselves.
Yeah, which is funny because it's like, I'm fairly certain the lead doesn't make almost any decision.
Yeah, it's certainly fair. Though, we have, not with Joe, but we certainly, in past episodes, have talked about, like, you know, whether or not someone had actually watched and familiarized themselves with this TV show before going on it. It is possible, like, if I watched one season of The Bachelorette and absolutely no other Bachelor family of products content, then yeah, I think it'd be pretty easy to think, oh, wow, The Bachelorette, she's deciding everything.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, when I was catching bits and pieces of The Bachelor / The Bachelorette, as my mother and sister were watching it, and I'd catch, like, 30 minutes at a time or something, I defo thought, oh, wow, what's his butt, whatever Bachelor I saw, he made all the decisions for this day. Holy shit, I saw fucking what's his butt that said I love fucking you instead of I love
Juan
you.
Pablo?
Juan Pablo. I saw a little bit of Juan Pablo's season.
Juan Pablo is the season that Claire Crawley was on.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
God damn. Well, when that wild ass, funky ass Zoom season of The Bachelorette is released, I guess I'll be able to speak on that.
Okay, but going on, Ben gets a one-on-one date where Kaitlyn starts talking about it's down to 4 guys, and she really needs to start looking at these guys as she'll be marrying one of them one day, and it's like, hey, you're on The Bachelorette. You are The Bachelorette.
How did she not think about this sooner? How is this what's being sprung upon her right now? Shit, I'm gonna have to marry one of these dudes, aren't I?
I mean, that'd be me. Oh, I did sign up for this, but I didn't really think
make
it
out
through.
with dudes on TV and send home a gift that you unwrapped for like a Princeton graduate.
I came here to make out with dudes on TV and talk about movie quotes.
Yes, I wanted movie quotes, and I wanted fart jokes and sex jokes, and then I wanted to
nothing
go
else.
home alone.
Okay, but they go, like, they get in a little boat and they go to this place. I don't even know where they go. There's some ruins. It looks like ruins.
It was definitely ruins. I didn't hear them say specifically, like, what it had been.
Yeah.
But it was certainly ruins, and I don't know why they had to stroll it. Because, I mean, like, there was a dock for it, and I believe it was stone. So it maybe wasn't even... I don't know if it's not considered a dock when it's stone, but there was essentially a sidewalk that went out into this large lake or whatever the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
That Ben rather expertly managed to row the boat up to. And, yeah, no, they go up there, and they play hide and seek.
It was very nice.
Yes, like, as this happened, we were like, oh, now that's cute. I do have to say, though, what ruined it is, Kaitlyn was the one hiding.
Yeah.
And Ben finds her, and in fairness, like, he finds her, and he's acting very matter-of-fact, and at first I was like, wait, is she, like, in... I thought there was this hole in the wall, and I was like, is she in that hole or something? And no, that hole was her.
No, she was just crouched up in a corner with the coat over her.
She had her pea coat. She had her pea coat over her like she was the fucking 4-year-old that still hadn't developed object permanence.
Kayla just doesn't have object permanence. And that's why she had sex with Nick, because when she was with him, she just forgot all the other guys existed.
Yep. Yep. And that's why it's only on dates where we hear her talking about, God, I've got to tell these guys at some point.
Yeah.
In between group dates, she's like, yeah, here's a new day, had some good sex.
Chris Harrison shows up and she's like, oh, you.
Yeah. God.
Okay. But then they talk a little bit, and Kaitlyn tells Ben that she thinks he's husband material. To which then she says, do you think I'm wife material?
Yeah.
And there's just a bit of a pause, and Ben's like, and like,
now he doesn't stammer quite that much, but there's definitely a stammer before he's like, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. It's so non-committal.
It seems quite non-committal.
It was so weird. Because that wasn't, I feel like Ben Higgins is so much smoother than that.
Yeah. It just seems awfully telling, Ben. How are things, Ben?
Yeah. Ben, you good? Have you made a good decision, Ben?
Yeah.
But then they go to another place to talk more serious, because this place has a fireplace.
And whiskey.
And whiskey. And Irish coffee. So
Which has whiskey in it.
So they drink some, and Ben talks about, in a talking head, and then to Kaitlyn, mentions that his biggest fear in a relationship is that he is unlovable.
Well, and he also talked about, like, his last relationship really made him fear that in a relationship.
Yeah. Which, if you've ever seen Ben Higgins in anything, you'll know that he is one of the most lovable people ever. He is a puppy dog. And I love him so much.
If we do exist within, like, what is it, the multiple universe theory or something like that, like, if there are, you can look at it as that, if there are other timelines that Ben Higgins exists within, I do not believe there's one in which he is unlovable.
Absolutely not. Not even the dark timeline. Not even the darkest timeline is Ben unlovable.
We live in the darkest timeline, so I don't know what you're talking about.
That's fair. We live in the darkest timeline, and Ben is still so lovable.
Quick diversion. We live in the darkest timeline, so if you would, please go vote. No, don't. Don't go vote. Request a ballot. Get a ballot sent to you and vote for the candidate that you and I both know will get us to an at least slightly less dark part of this darkest timeline.
Spoiler alert, it ain't Trump.
It's not Trump. And don't vote for a candidate that you just think would be good, please. We live in a two-party system that was never supposed to be a two-party system, so vote for the candidate that you know has a chance of beating Trump.
Also, just because you don't like Trump or Biden, don't vote for somebody without looking at their policies. Just because they're not Trump or Biden.
Yeah, and even, I'm sorry, I'll take it a step further right now. If you really think, like, oh, well, I don't agree with either of them, so I'm going to vote for some third-party person, I'm going to need you to sit on it. Save that for 4 years where you can maybe throw away your vote like that.
We're in a transition phase. Whoever we choose that is not Trump is going to be a transition to someone better.
This is true. And unfortunately, that transition... Politics, let's just really get into this for a second, I guess. Politics, it is a pendulum.
Mm-hmm.
But the unfortunate thing about this is it is not a free-hanging pendulum. It's more about a grandfather clock. It swings left or it swings right.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks, but I'm sorry, everybody. Our ancestors have created a system in which that is true. We may one day be able to change that, but I'm sorry if you're one of the olds, you're part of the problem. And if we don't start voting for third-party candidates in smaller elections to work up to voting for them in something like the presidential election, we too will be part of the problem.
Yeah. Guys, we've got to build up to it, baby steps. We can't just jump into it.
And unfortunately, the baby step that you can take right now is yet another old, creepy white man, and that is Joe Biden. I don't love the man. I do think he's a creep, but I'm sorry. He's our best chance at getting that pendulum to swing back. I wish we could have swing. I really wish we had the option to swing back to the other extreme, since I would say at the most generous term I could use, a borderline fascist dictator is currently the president. It would be great if we could swing all the way back from that, but unfortunately we can't. So let's get just over the line to the left.
It's like tug of war. As long as we're a little bit.
We just need that bandana tied to the rope on our side of the mud pit.
Yeah.
We don't need the other team in the mud. We just need ourselves out of the mud.
Yeah.
And maybe that bandana a little bit to our side.
Okay, but enough about politics.
That's not about personal politics. That is about humanity itself existing.
That's about humanity. And human rights. Not everything is politics, guys. Sometimes you can care about people.
Empathy is not political.
Empathy is not political.
Tweet it at Nick Viall.
Hey Nick, empathy is not political.
He's like, yeah, I fucked Kaitlyn Bristowe on like my third week there, but what the fuck is this? If I'm gonna get tweets about anything, why am I getting tweets about empathy?
He's like, this happened 5 years ago.
I fucked Kaitlyn Bristowe 5 years ago, way before the fantasy suites. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Maybe he and Sean, maybe if we tweet that enough at him, he will apologize to Sean and they'll become best friends and there'll be a whole Bachelor special about it.
Everyone. Sean could still turn bad, so go ahead and save a draft of Empathy is Not Political to tweet at Sean. I haven't looked up his Twitter handle, but just, hey, that may come too. Their situation is one where a little bit we can encourage both sides. Unfortunately, right now, politically, we have to encourage one side.
Yeah, there are no stakes in this other one. There's so many stakes in the political one.
A lot of stakes. The existence of... You know, I won't go into it deeper, but like, hey, did you get real jealous of the citizens in the book 1984? I doubt you did. I really doubt you did. So maybe let's move away from the path that sets us to 1984.
Or, any dystopia.
Yeah, you can fill in. Did you envy the citizens in fill in blank with dystopian novel? No, you did not.
Okay, but let's get back to this episode. So, Kaitlyn is still talking to Ben. They talk a little bit about the fantasy suites, where Ben talks about how he thinks it's more about the conversation you have off camera than actually having sex. To it.
Well, he says everybody thinks it's about having sex,
right.
But...
Yeah. But, I think it's more about talking.
The connection you can make off camera.
Yes, and being able to talk all night, he says. And then Kaitlyn then says, "Are you a virgin?"
And this is after we get a talking head. I can't remember her justification, but she says eventually, like, and with what he's saying, it is making it sound like he's a virgin. And then the next thing we get is Ben saying, "Is there anything you're worried about?"
Oh, yeah.
And then from what we see, at least then, is when she chose to ask,
Right.
are you a virgin?
Who knows if that actually happened, but that's what the producers gave us.
And if that's what happened, Jesus Christ, Kaitlyn.
Kaitlyn. And Ben's like so taken aback by this because of course he is. This is a wild thing to ask.
Well, now he does say, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he says something about, like, but I'm glad I come off as, like, pure-hearted and innocent because I am.
Yeah. And then Kaitlyn says, oh yeah, I'm a virgin too. Okay, Kaitlyn?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know if either of them is a virgin. I did not interpret it as Ben saying he's a virgin. I thought he was saying he is innocent and pure-hearted.
Well, you know Kaitlyn's not a virgin. She had sex with Nick a little while ago.
Yeah. Maybe that's why she was saying, she's like, yeah, I'm a virgin too.
Yeah. Please believe me, I am a virgin. I've never had sex with anyone.
I'm pure-hearted. I'm a virgin too. It's stupid. It's stupid.
Just a frantic, like, Kaitlyn being like, no, I do have something. No, it's stupid.
It's stupid.
Listen,
I'm a virgin.
I'm a
It's
virgin.
stupid.
It's stupid.
I haven't watched even porn. It's stupid.
I've never even kissed a guy. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's silly. It's silly.
I don't even know what a penis looks like. It's stupid.
Opinion. I can't even say it.
I've heard it's called a pin 15.
I can't even look at a boy part.
What are a boy's privates like? There's something under a boy's privates that it hurts to kick. What is that?
You know those, like...
What are those? Hi. Hello, I'm Max Churchwell. I've never referenced that meme before. I chose this moment in a reference to a male's only sexual organs to reference that meme. I'm glad you could all be here to share it with me.
Yeah,
It's an important first. I've popped my what are those cherry.
You know what, Max? That's it. That's the end of the podcast. I'm done.
Wow.
Dick Firmrod can be your new host. I'm out.
I know what those are.
No! Okay, Dick, I changed my mind. I'm back. You can leave.
I'll just see myself out so that the producers don't hurt me. Here they come!
Wow, he got here so fast.
He sort of just appeared. He's an aberration.
Oh. Dick Firmrod, he's the ghost. He's the ghost of a porn star.
There you go.
Lives in the studio.
He's the ghost of all the wasted nuts. Every time.
I hate you, man.
Every time a fluffer makes a porn star come, a Dick Firmrod gets his wings.
No! No! This is not allowed!
We have a very different podcast now. Really earning that explicit rating.
Yeah, guys, this one's for sure explicit. So don't show this to your kids.
It's, by my standards, it's late and I've had some wine. Every time a fluffer makes a porn star come, a Dick Firmrod gets his wings.
No, why'd you have to say it again? You didn't have to say it again.
Just to emphasize, that was following the semicolon that
Okay.
came after, by my standards, it's late and I've had some wine, and then there's a semicolon, and then a quote. Every time a fluffer makes a porn star come, a Dick Firmrod gets his wings.
Okay, moving on, we get a teaser. Need a second.
Just imagine a little girl in her mother's arms speaking to what I assume, I haven't watched the film It's a Wonderful Life,
What?
but speaking to a man that I assume is maybe the boyfriend of her mother, and that's why it's an
What?
important relationship? Is he
What?
just a dad and he's still
he's the
like
dad.
Oh. Doesn't he at one point, isn't he on the bridge and he's considering killing
Yes,
himself?
he's going to
And that's
commit
when Santa
suicide
Claus
because
appears
he doesn't
and is
have any
like, no,
money.
people are good.
And Santa Claus does not appear. It's
Yes, he
an
does.
angel, and that's why an angel gets his wings.
known by the
because
name of
Clarence-
Kris Kringle.
Clarence is his name, and
Clarence Kringle.
he
Santa's nephew. I got myself in that one. I needed a second.
There's a teaser. We have to talk about this episode, Mac. There's a teaser.
Fine.
Where-
What happens in this stupid teaser?
Well,
I don't even want to be on this podcast anymore. I want to talk about fluffers making porn stars come and what I think happened in It's a Wonderful Life.
just give me the plot of It's a Wonderful Life right now, Max.
Okay, a man I think works at a bank, and somewhere there's a big swimming pool
What?
that has the like floor cover that opens. I know that from another podcast. And then there's a Santa that dumps all his mail on a judge's desk. That's a different Christmas movie I haven't actually watched. And then a guy who works at a bank where everyone's mean to him considers killing himself on a bridge, and Santa Claus shows up and says, no, hey bud, don't end your life because it's a wonderful life. And that's where the title comes from. And then Santa Claus takes him to a childhood Christmas where bankers were mean to him. And then the present Christmas where bankers are mean to him. And a future Christmas where the bankers are not in his life anymore.
This is a Christmas Carol.
And he says, I want that future. And Santa says, buy a banker a turkey. And
This is just Christmas Carol.
he wakes up and he looks out his window at a snow-covered London and says, boy, what day is it? And the boy says, why, it's Christmas Day, sir.
What's the boy's name, Max? Little Lenny.
It's not Tiny Tim that he buys it.
What?
Tiny Tim doesn't buy the turkey. How is Tiny Tim supposed to run off to the butcher and
I
back
don't know.
in less
I don't
than
know
an
Christmas
hour?
Carol very well.
I was in the play Christmas Carol 2 Christmases ago. So I know. It's a random street urchin boy that goes and buys the turkey.
Well, at least I know
And-
Christmas Carol better than you know It's a Wonderful Life.
And he wants the bankerless future, so he trades away his watch to get a hairband that he sells
Oh no, this
to
is
buy
the
a
gift of
turkey.
the Magi.
And he buys a turkey and sends it to one of the banker's poor sons who has trouble walking. And then the banker's like, I'm not going to be mean to that guy anymore. And then he shows up to the bank, and they have a Christmas tree with a bunch of bells on it. And a boy gets off a train direct from the North Pole. And he goes.
And also Will Ferrell is there.
And Will Ferrell's there just slurping down. He's snorting maple syrup off a table. And there's a boy in a bunny costume. That's who gets off the train, and he rings the bell. and his brother falls over in a bunch of coats and can't stand up. A little girl, less than 3 years old, in her mother's arms says, every time a fluffer makes a porn star comes, Dick Firmrod gets his wings. I'm pretty sure that's what A Wonderful Life is about. My spec script there is a better Christmas movie. Has a more meaningful theme and universal message that can really reach the children.
What is the theme, Max?
Christmas is important, and so are fluffers on a porn set. Because without fluffers, how would we have Dick Firmrods? And that's the meaning of this. That's the reason for the season, is Dick Firmrod.
Guys, we've never done this on an episode before, but we're gonna have to take an intermission, because I need some time. I need some time to recover.
Oh man, what is it they say? Oh, I can't.
What is it they say, Max?
Overruled. That's what judges say when someone objects. Overruled. And then they move on.
Okay.
I won't allow it.
There's a teaser
There
where
it
we
is.
find out that it is Sean who Kaitlyn tells that she and Nick had sex. Because we see them sit down on a couch together, and we see Kaitlyn, close up of Kaitlyn on said couch saying we had sex. Which, man, they really, I don't know what they were doing with the teasers this episode, because
they gave away, like, a lot of stuff.
They gave away so much. Next clip we see is Sean and Nick have a confrontation in the future. And then we see Joe saying, it's your decision, you chose to do it. And then him walking away again, which seems like a reaction to Kaitlyn saying we had sex. So
yeah,
possibly Kaitlyn is going to tell Joe also.
In an entirely different setting.
Right.
Presumably, well, it must have been at an entirely separate time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so we gather, I figured from this that Kaitlyn was going one by one to all the guys and telling them like that, rather than sitting down with all of them and having a we had sex conversation. Which
is ultimately going dude to dude. We've talked about it before. That's like the best thing she could do. Mm-hmm.
Right. Which, imagine calling all the guys in, including Nick, and being like, me and Nick had sex. Like, what do you do if you're Nick in that situation?
Given what Nick has done so far this season, I would wager that he would make some attempt to mansplain this situation and how this is something the men should have been prepared for.
He'd be like, well, guys, I came in late, and that's my fault.
I've hardly had any time. I've barely had any time with Kaitlyn this week. And so it's fine that a week and a half ago I fucked her.
Okay, but in the actual episode, we find out, or there's a time when Kaitlyn gets to talk to Sean, and it seems like she's about to tell him, you know, that she and Nick had sex. They're, like, sitting in, like, a grassy area, and something's clearly wrong with her, and Sean asks her about it, and Kaitlyn really looks like she's about ready to say something, and then Nick walks in, and it's like, I have to know, was he pushed into this?
Yeah.
And it was like...
Well, and I mean, this is, like, this, and forgive me if you already said this is after the teaser.
Oh, yeah.
This is once a 3-on-1 date starts, between Sean, Nick, and
Joe.
Yes, Joe. Yeah, and that's when, like, I believe Sean was actually the first person to talk to her on this
Yes.
3-on-1. And that's when it really, like, between her talking heads that were being cut in and her whole vibe in this conversation with Sean, it did super seem like she was about to say, Nick and I fucked, but they weren't on a couch. So we should have known it wasn't going to happen there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nick comes over and he interrupts. Steals her away and has, like, their conversation is kind of weird because she brings up, like, feeling weird about the fact that they had sex and, you know, she is feeling weird about the other man not knowing, and he gets on this whole thing about, like, do you regret it? I don't regret it.
Yeah, it's like, of course you don't, Nick.
Fucking your dumb ass is proud as hell about it. And I can't remember, you know, exactly what was happening with what she was saying about her feelings about it having happened in that moment, but, like, if this episode proves anything to us, it's that, like, you know, she thought it was a bit of a mistake, which I will point out, her mistakes are why the episode title I stumbled upon earlier was the serial bad decision maker.
Yeah, Kaitlyn, the serial bad decision maker. She's made so many.
And the unfortunate other thing that becomes clear throughout this episode, because she does say it at one point, is that she thinks she has made a lot of right decisions.
Yeah. I think she says that all of the decisions she's made has been good.
That have felt right or something like that. And it's like, Kaitlyn, we know that's not fucking true.
Like, Kaitlyn, we know even you don't think that's true. Why do you keep saying this? So then Joe actually waits until Kaitlyn and Nick are done to talk with Kaitlyn. He doesn't interrupt them or steal her away or anything. So they go and talk, and Joe tells Kaitlyn that he is in love with her. To which Kaitlyn cannot reciprocate and says, you know, that she doesn't feel the same way. She's not there with him, and so he goes home. Joe gets very, like, you can tell. I feel so bad for him because it's like his walls immediately go back up and he's really, really suppressing his feelings and being like, nope, that's fine. And this is where that soundbite or that clip of that you chose to do it, it's your choice.
Yeah.
Comes from.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's like you said, like, seeing his walls come back up so quickly, you can really tell how hard this hit him.
Yeah.
And, you know, unfortunately, Joe goes a little bit off. And at the end, like, he starts getting, it's clear, to me, this seems like he's just uncomfortable with actually, you know, being vulnerable enough to cry and stuff like that in front of cameras. And so, I don't remember what she says exactly, but it's like, they stand up, they hug, and she's going to leave. And I'm not sure what happens, but he ends up saying, like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Which is fair.
Yeah, it seemed like he, like, literally, like, not metaphorically at all, did not know where to go from here. Like, what direction do I walk? We're in the middle of nowhere. Surrounded by the flora.
And, yeah, she,
I think she says, whatever you want to do.
Whatever you need to do. And then, I'm not sure what he said, but she said something about, I'm just trying to say goodbye or something like that. And he says, I'm not saying shit to you. And that's where he kind man, Joe, I really liked you, and you
Mhm.
lost me with that one, man.
And I mean, and then she left after he said that. And she seems very just like confused by what happened. But then we see him walking off in a direction, and that's when he says, that, like, I don't have anything to say to you, which I assume he's talking to a producer.
Yeah.
Maybe. But then Kaitlyn goes to talk to Sean and Joe, tells Sean that she needs some more time
Sean
with
and
him.
Nick.
Yeah, sorry. Sean and Nick. I blocked Nick's name out of my memory. She tells Nick that she'll see him at the rose ceremony, but needs more time with Sean. And this is when we see that clip that we always thought was Sean and Nick on a 2-on-1, where they're just like standing there watching Kaitlyn walk away. But it's not as dramatic as the teaser would have led us to believe. So Kaitlyn does talk with Sean. This is where she tells Sean that she and Nick did have sex. And when she said it, so there was like some dramatic build-up music happening, and then she said it, music cut out. And for, I don't know how long
45 seconds.
Well, that's how long Sean was quiet, but the music came back.
No more than 5 seconds before he started talking, though. There was not, like, they really let that silence hang.
Yeah, Sean was quiet they showed us 45 seconds. And it was excruciating. It was an excruciating 45 seconons. And what Sean says when he does start talking again is, do you regret it? To which Kaitlyn says that she felt guilt. And they talk about it. Sean actually, he handles this so much better than I thought he would.
Remarkably well.
He excuses himself to take a few minutes, compose himself, and then comes back and says that he's glad that Kaitlyn told him. He doesn't want to make it about Nick. He wants it to be about them, and, he is going to stay. So, Nick gets on some bull about not getting a rose at the group date and keeps talking about how he hasn't had as much time as the other guys, and he's at a disadvantage because he came in late, and that's his fault. He says that like a million times, that he came in late, and that's his fault. But then we found out, so there are 4 men left. We've got Sean, Nick, Ben Higgins, and Jared. And they're getting ready. They're talking about hoping that they'll have time to talk to Kaitlyn and all of this stuff. And then Chris Harrison comes in and says, no one's going to have time to talk to Kaitlyn because we're not going to have a cocktail party. Kaitlyn has her mind made up, and we're going straight into the rose ceremony.
Yeah.
So we're at the rose ceremony, and Kaitlyn actually says Sean's name first, and I really thought it was going to be a dramatic down to Sean and Nick thing, but Sean's name was called first. And when she asks if he will accept the rose, he says, "Can I talk to you?" And so they go and talk, and he talks about, he brings up again that she told him that he was the one, and then Kaitlyn says that that was a mistake. We've heard her say that before in a talking head, but she hasn't told him that it was a mistake that she did that. She said what she said was not fair to the other guys through her other relationships, and she should never have said that to him so early on in the game. And then says that he needs to trust her. So, but the thing about this rose ceremony, and what we said about the teasers before, is that they give away too much.
Yeah.
Because we know that Sean and Nick have a conversation later on from the teasers that we haven't seen yet. Mm-hmm. So we know that both of them are staying, and turns out it is Jared who is going home.
Which he handles very well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that there's been a ton of dudes who got sent home at rose ceremonies that, like, were huge pieces of shit about it, but still.
Yeah, but, yeah, Jared's just classy as ever. Like, they go outside and he still offers Kaitlyn his jacket because she's cold. And, Kaitlyn explains that it wasn't that she didn't have feelings for Jared, it's that he wasn't as far along as the other guys. And this is the first time where Kaitlyn has sent a guy home that we see it really, really affect her. She was real broken up about this. So then Nick and Kaitlyn have a one-on-one where they go to a Catholic church.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Or Nick tells Kaitlyn about his first confessional and his time growing up in church and how it's bringing back memories and all this stuff. And he does talk about how he's like, because he came in late and that's his fault.
Yeah.
He's not like the other guys. He hasn't made friends with them. He's like, he says something about it's weird, like, finding it strange that the guys have become friends in the house. It's like, okay, Nick.
And how he doesn't understand the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
Because he's just the outsider, and Sean's the front runner, and everyone's just okay with being second to Sean and all this bullshit. Mm-hmm. He's really trying to build a case against Sean here.
Yeah, and it really does seem like it seems so disingenuous because it's like he's only doing it to rile Kaitlyn up and to, like, make her turn against Sean.
Yep.
He talks about how he has no respect for Sean. He has no respect for guys who brag about being Eskimo brothers with country band singers because they had sex with the same girl in one night, but he was first. And it's like, Sean would not have said that. And if he did, he wouldn't have said it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand when Nick would have been able to pick up on any of Sean's personal life details unless, like, I mean, I can't imagine Sean was blabbing about that bullshit enough, if any of that's true. I can't imagine he would blab enough about it that someone would feel a need to tell Nick, oh, yeah, by the way, Sean said he's Eskimo brothers with Garth Brooks, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. It's weird that Nick would bring this up. And Kaitlyn kind of, like, just doesn't respond to it. Really? She doesn't say anything about it. Well, she asked who it is. Because first Nick didn't say who it was.
Yeah.
He just said he has no respect for guys like that. And she's like, well, who are you talking about? Am I supposed to know? Like, he's like, you idiot.
Mm-hmm.
So then they get to have their fantasy suite. And, like, they're in a jail somewhere, like some old jail.
Which is already weird enough, but then it's also, like, I guess it's some sort of historical, like, oh man, I can't think of the right word, but there's, like, these fucking wax figure looking ass things in these different cells of, like, oh, here's a priest reading a prisoner his last rites. Oh, here's a guard beating a prisoner with a cat of nine tails. Like,
yeah, super romantic and really set the mood.
Absolutely. Nothing gets me horny like a man with just severe mutton chops beating
he did have some crazy mutton chops
with a cat of nine tails.
So then in the next, like, cell, there's, like, a little pallet set up, and they go in, and Nick is, he's like, okay. Turns out it's just a prank, but, like, Nick was so ready to have sex with Kaitlyn on this
Yep.
jail floor.
Mm-hmm.
It's
He barely took a moment to question it.
yeah, like she calls him out on that, like being so ready. So, I mean, they spend the night together, and then the next morning we see Sean. You know, he's got a talking head voiceover thing while over shots of him looking dramatically in front of like a field of wheat. And he eventually decides to call as the front desk and ask what room number Nick Viall is in.
Mm-hmm.
And goes to him, and I really thought that the episode was gonna end on Sean walking to the door, but we actually see quite a bit of the conversation.
It's very surprising too, like them leaving it completely in the air is far and away what I would more expect from The Bachelor's producers and editors.
Yeah. So it's just a lot of Sean calling Nick manipulative, telling him to his face that he doesn't like him. In Sean's words, he wants to show that he's man enough to tell Sean that, tell Nick this to his face rather than talk about it behind his back. And then Sean says, that he could say the same thing about Nick Nick says he could say the same thing about Sean.
When Sean has said that Nick is arrogant and manipulative.
Yeah. It's like, okay, Nick, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it just leaves off on them being like, I don't like you. Well, I don't like you either.
Pretty much.
And so then we get a teaser where Kaitlyn's really going through it with this Sean versus Nick thing. Like, it's starting to really get to her. Because it's like they're always talking about each other. They're always, at each other's throats. And we get a shot of Chris Harrison talking to Kaitlyn and says, tell them what's going on.
Yeah. They're like in the foyer of some like very nice establishment, I guess. And it's like really dark and shit, and he's like, he puts a hand on her back and he's kind of whispering, and he's like, tell them what's going on.
Yeah. I
have no idea what the fuck that's about.
But yeah, I am intrigued.
Absolutely.
So then we get an end credit scene, and it's another Britt and Brady. It's been a while since we've seen them.
I was gonna say, the first time in a long time.
It turns out I guess Brady's been in LA with Britt. He's going back home to Nashville, and they're gonna try long distance. So that's where the episode ends. This episode was a weird one with how much they revealed, and like even where they left off of the episode. It was just, I don't know how much thought was put into the editing of this episode.
Well, at least comparatively.
Yeah.
Like, as far as an episode of a reality show goes, like, I mean, this of course fits the bill, but with the standard that The Bachelor has set of, like, leaving as many things as possible up in the air, this episode really strays from that formula.
Right.
And also, now that we've made it this far, I can reveal that my prediction on who streaks across a golf course is that it is Ben Higgins after his one-on-one date, because Sean shows up to freak out about something.
Oh,
It's the morning after the fantasy suite.
I want it. I want that to happen. I'm so bad for that prediction to be true.
Oh, if only. But damn, yeah, that's the weird ass fucking episode of The Bachelorette.
It was very weird.
That's what they decided was that week's episode, I suppose.
They said, "Yep, we did it."
Now that's what I call an episode. But damn, you know, I guess that's all the content we have. Just a quick recap. So much of our whole shit is fucked. Please go vote, and do not vote for Donald Trump. Vote for the only candidate that could beat Donald Trump. Yeah, no, that's all I feel I need to touch on again.
Yeah.
Oh, and It's a Wonderful Life is about Santa Claus showing a man that he doesn't need bankers in his life.
Yes.
Think that's pretty much it for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess the quick standard stuff. Smash that motherfucking like and subscribe button. Comment if you're listening somewhere that comments are available. Email us if you're a pervert. Will you accept this prose@gmail.com. And shocker, we have still not gotten the social media bullshit handled. But, you know, whatever.
I think that's an episode.
I'm your author, Max Churchwell.
And I'm your analyzer, Kinsey Brenton.
And join us next time for the most dramatic episode in Will You Accept This Prose history.
One and only prayer is that someday you'll care. My hopes, my dreams come true. My one and only you. No one will ever know how much I love you so.